I'm Maggie. Welcome to Experiments in Crafting. Tonight I have so a couple of times I've had some requests for waffle stitch and basket weave patterns, and so I haven't done pre-recorded tutorial patterns in a while, but I figured I could just do them live. So I'm gonna do a basket weave stitch pattern tutorial, and then I'm going to do the waffle stitch tutorial pattern tutorial. And then if you guys have other requests, I will do those as well. So I've got a stitch dictionary next to me, and I can kind of thumb through if there's some that you guys are really interested in, and I can run through them real quick. How fast we get through them or how many we get through will just depend on how long they take. But if there's a lot of excitement around this, or if there's some that we don't get to, we can try this format again in a week or two. So I worked up a small swatch. And so I've got that. I can show you the two patterns that we're going to work on today. In the meantime, I can show you the shawl that I've been working on. So this is the tendrils shawl that I've been working on out of Sock Obsession Yarn's Hotter Cousin colorway. And I really like how it's been turning out. I actually haven't really worked on it very much, so it probably looks roughly the same as you guys have seen it before. But this is where I'm at with this. Like I said, not super far along from where I was before, but getting there. So, like I said, this is Sock Obsession Yarn's Hotter Cousin. So, I'm going to set this aside. And then, let's see, Stephanie is saying hi. Welcome. Thank you for joining. So, like I said, we're going to work on the basket weave and the waffle stitch tutorial, or pattern tutorial. I don't know why I keep getting those words out of order. And then if there's additional requests, I will work on those. So I've got some DK weight. This is Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday DK. They recommend a 4mm hook with this. And I'm going to be working in a 5mm hook for two reasons. One is because these patterns work up pretty dense. And so it's not a big deal if you go up a little bit. Your stitches kind of aren't quite so crammed in there. And then the other is just so that you guys can see this better. So I've got both stitches worked here. I don't have much waffle stitch, but you can start to see the shape taking form on the top there. And then the basket weave is down here a little bit lower. You have some options with both of these patterns. So it's not set in stone that these have to be 3 wide with the vertical bars. You can adjust this however you want. And then same with the basket weave. These can be 2 wide or 4 wide. Really is however you want them to go. But I like 3 wide basket weave, and so that's what I'm going to show you tonight. It also happens that you can work 3 wide basket weave and 3 wide waffle stitch across the same amount of stitches. So it works out that I can just switch tutorials and show you what I'm doing. So there's the little swatch we're going to be working off of. Got that guy set to the side. So I've got my hook. Like I said, I'm going to be working with an H hook, 5mm hook, and my yarn. I'm going to show you this all the way from the beginning. And like I said, if you've got other stitch tutorials or questions along the way, just throw those in the live chat and I will keep checking up there. So for both of these stitch patterns, you want to chain 4 plus 3. So any multiple of 4 plus 3 is what you're aiming for, and that is for both the waffle stitch I'm going to show and the basket weave. If you want your basket weaves to be wider or narrower, you just adjust the 4 plus that last number to the amount that you want in your repeat. So if you want them 2 wide, it's 4 plus 2. If you want them 4 wide, it's 4 plus 4, which is just ends up being any multiple of 8. So you've got those two options there. But I'm going to do 4 plus 3 on both of them. I'm going to chain 19. So that's 4 times 4 plus 3. Is that right? 16 plus 3, 19. Yes. I'm going to chain 19. Trying to, I can count out loud, but that might be weird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so there's 19. And then this first row is just double crochets. So I'm going to double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook and then double crochet all the way across. And I could have set this up ahead of time, but I just wanted to make sure that you got the whole chain and pattern portion of this down. So again, I'm just double crocheting all the way across. This should leave me with 16 double crochets. Well, I guess it's actually 17 if you count the 3 chains at the end. So yeah, I'm just, like I said, just double crocheting all the way down the row here, and then we'll actually get into the stitch pattern. The stitch patterns are relatively straightforward. It's just keeping track of front post and back post stitches. So if you haven't done post stitches before, I'll show you how to do those. But they're relatively easy. If you can double crochet, you can post stitch as well. So, and yeah, if we need to adjust or do stuff, the other thing is if I keep falling off screen, I'll do my best to try and get back on screen. My husband's trying to watch and keep me on screen, but it's pretty easy to drift as you crochet. So, trying to keep my elbows locked in position here. All right, so I've double crocheted across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 double crochets, and then this chain 3 at the end, making my 17th double crochet. All right, and so I'm ready to turn. I like to do a standing stitch at the beginning of my rows rather than doing chains, but you can do either in this pattern. This pattern, it really doesn't matter. I like doing double crochets on the edges. A lot of them call for doing half double crochets just to kind of tighten up the rows a little bit. But if you're going to chain, it's going to be 2 chains and then turn. If you're going to do a standing stitch, they're pretty much the same. A standing half double crochet and a standing double crochet are roughly the same. But all you do is you draw up a loop about the height that you want it to be. And then you turn, and that kind of puts a twist in there. And then you slide this up just a little bit on here. And you tip your hook down around the back side, yarn over, and draw it kind of back around that loop. And it makes a little bit of a tangle, but what you end up with is 2 loops on your hook, and you yarn over and draw through both of them. And that gives you sort of a fake stitch on the end, and it just looks a little bit cleaner. It also gives you the top of a stitch to work into instead of a chain. And so this is my preferred method, but like I said, you can just chain 2. But regardless of which method you choose, you're not going to work anything into this stitch here. So if you chain 2, you're going to skip over the top of it. If you do this standing stitch, you always skip this stitch. And the first stitch that you'll work into in either method is this stitch here. And actually, we're not going to work into the top of the stitch. We're going to work around the post. So I am starting with the basket weave. And so what we start with here is 3 front post double crochets. So a half double on the edge or 2 chains on the edge, and then we're going to start post stitching. So yarn over just like you're going to do a double crochet. And instead of going into the top of the stitch right here, we're going to tip the hook and go around the post from this direction. And this is your front post. It's pushing your post forward is how I remember it. A back post will push your post back. So we are going to front post double crochet 3 times. So literally you're just going behind this bar. I hope you can see that pretty well there. But it's just tuck your hook behind there, yarn over and draw it around the back side, yarn over and draw through 2, yarn over and draw through 2. And so you just made a double crochet, but instead of working it into the top of the stitch, you've worked it around. And what that makes is kind of this weird tall stitch. And then it also tips the top of the stitch over backwards. So the part that I would have normally worked into is tipped over on this side. And that's what's going to give this ridge here. So all of your tops are going to tip over and you get this ridge right here. It's a little bit harder to see in the basket weave because they end up on top of each other because you do multiple rows that tip the stitches the same way. And that's how you get that basket weave look. So you get the horizontal rows and then the vertical rows. And that's really what gives it this distinct look. But it's harder to see that these are the tops of your stitches. It's a lot easier to see in the waffle stitch, the rows tipped over. But the concept is the same. It's post stitches. So I'm going to pick this back up the right way. And I need to do 2 more front post double crochets. So yarn over, insert my hook behind the post, tipping it forward. So front post. Draw that loop up, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over and draw through 2. Yarn over again. Insert your hook behind the post. Yarn over and drop a loop. Yarn over and draw through 2. Yarn over and draw through 2. Now, I've worked 1 half double crochet or 2 chains, and then 3 front post double crochets. Now I need to work 3 back post double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over, and this time I'm going to tip my hook behind the top of my stitch and come in from the back, pushing that this way. And so you can see there's my hook all the way across the front of that stitch. There's my stitch getting pushed the opposite direction. Yarn over and draw that back up. So I've got 3 loops on my hook, yarn over and draw through 2, yarn over and draw through 2. And you can see there's that first stitch tipping towards me. The top of the stitch tipping towards me. The post is going away from me. It's being pushed back. It's a back post double crochet. So again, I'm going to do that again. So let me back up here. Yarn over. I'm going to insert my hook from the back, point it forward between the stitches, and then back out between the next stitch and the stitch that I'm targeting here. Yarn over and draw through. I've got 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over and draw through 2. Yarn over and draw through 2. 1 more back post. So yarn over. Insert my hook between the stitch I just worked on and the stitch that I'm working around now. Come through the back to the front and then go back out. So I've just got that 1 stitch on my hook. Draw some yarn through and then complete your double crochet. So now you can see there's my 3 front posts and my 3 back posts. Um, Stephanie's asking, is this similar to plaid? I'm not sure what you mean by plaid. So there's a couple of different things. There's I've seen people do like a what do they call that? Buffalo plaid. That's usually worked more like mosaic crochet. It's generally done all in single crochet or all in half doubles, and it's a lot of times it's two yarns worked together, and you do a chunk of two of the same color, a chunk of two, uh, a chunk of one of each color, and then a chunk of two of the second color. So it's AA, AB, and then BB, and you go back and forth, and you make the buffalo plaid. Um, Actual plaid is just woven, and it can be any combination of different colors and lines and whatnot. I don't know if I have my. Oh yeah, here it is. My loom here. Almost lost the wine. Might be best to tip it this way and show it from the other camera. But you can see the plaid forming here. This is sort of what I was talking about when you can replicate this with single crochet by working two of the same color, or sorry, two of the different colors next to each other, and then holding two of the same color next to each other, and then again two different back and forth, and make the buffalo plaid. So the oops, sorry, I bumped the microphone there. That would be worked. I think primarily that's done in single crochet. So this is done in double crochets with post stitches. And then I'm trying to think if I've seen people do this in multiple colors to get different patterns. I can't picture basket weave done in multiple colors. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I think you could probably switch colors back and forth, and make some sort of cool plaid. Mostly what I've seen is this done in like variegated, and then it comes out kind of cool. I suppose you could also do it in a color change yarn so that you ended up with chunks of the different color, trying to get it to pool. It probably won't pool amazingly, but it could pool in kind of a plaid look. So, moving on with this, it is going to be 3 more. So we've done the edge stitch, 3 front post, 3 back post. Now we need to do another 3 front post. So I'm going to do my 3 front posts, tipping that hook and forcing that post to come forward or to the front for front post. Again, inserting it from the front, around the back side, poking that hook back out and pulling that loop through. So I've done 3 more front posts, now 3 more back posts. This one is coming around from the back and going around the hook this way. The first row is always the worst because you're working into stitches that aren't kind of helping you along. But as you do most of the rows, they kind of help because the stitches are already trying to tip one way or the other. So there's my 3 back posts, and then I've got one more set of 3 front posts. Okay, and then my very last stitch is a half double or a double crochet into the edge. Like I said, you can work a half double or a double. Really, the only difference is whether it's kind of tightening up your edges or not. Um, it it doesn't really make a big difference to me. The pattern that I looked up calls for a half double on the edge. Um, I've done just fine putting a full double crochet in there. The other thing is because the post stitch is worked around this lower post, because the post stitch is worked around this lower post, it's not quite as tall as a full double crochet would be. So that's probably why they advise the half double on the edge there. It's just because this double crochet is halfway down the last row. So, like I said, I've done it both ways. It doesn't seem to make a huge difference either way. Um, but following good practice, I'll do half doubles on the edges there. So now you've got to turn your row again. You can do 2 chains, or again, I like to do the standing stitch on the edge here. So I pull up a loop, rotate my whole project, hold on to that loop and tip your hook behind, yarn over, draw that loop back around to the front, yarn over, and draw through those 2 loops. Okay, so now you had front posts on this side, and now you're going to turn it around, and your front posts are kind of now back posts, because you're looking at the back side of it. So in order to add on to these, you need the post to stay sticking up on this side. And so we need to add back posts on top so that the pattern grows. Let me work it and I'll show you what I mean here. But you start the next row with the opposite stitch type. So we ended on front posts, we're going to work back posts. And this is where I said the pattern will sort of help you along. They're already kind of bulging out the other side. And so it's much easier to get in here and get your hook around those back posts because they're already sticking out this way and lend themselves pretty well. One of the things that you want to be careful with post stitches is that when you come in from this side and go back out, that you're not splitting through a stitch. So it's really easy to come in here. And I don't know if you can see right there, what's really easy to do is go through that stitch. And now I'm pulling my yarn through the top of a stitch right here and not around the post. So it's pretty easy to misplace, I guess, your hook. I know misplace means a different thing, but you can put it in the wrong spot here. So just be careful that you're not picking up other parts of the stitches. You just want to be around the post. So there is 3 back posts, but if I flip this back around, you can see what it did was extend these vertical bars. So that's the goal here, is to have a chunk that has vertical bars and a chunk that has horizontal bars, and back and forth, and that's how you get your basket weave, just like this. So you want a vertical bar section, a horizontal bar section, a vertical bar section, and you can make this as big as you want. This is just a small square so that we can kind of get through this pattern in a reasonable time frame. So I did my back post. Now I'm going to do my front post. And again, these go quicker because they're already tipped the direction that you want them to go. So we're going to front post, double crochet, front post, double crochet, and one more front post. And again, be careful not to split those stitches apart. It is easy as you go in from the side to go right through the side of the post, which is not where you want to be. You want to be around the post. And then back posts again. And then this is really kind of it for this pattern. There is a change, and we'll work through that in just a second. So if you keep doing this, you're just going to end up with stripes. So you do have to change the order. And we'll get there in just 1 second. So I'm doing front posts again, 3 front posts, and then 3 back posts. So if you start with back posts, you're going to end with back posts so that you've got a symmetrical pattern. You don't actually have to do that, but if you follow the stitch count that I gave you at the beginning, which was any multiple of 4 plus 3, you'll end up with a symmetrical pattern. If you change that, you can end up with it. Basically, you can take out that last repeat, and what you'd end up with is a pattern that looked more like that. So it wouldn't look as nice, I don't think. So, all right, so I'm to the end here, and I'm going to chain and turn, or in my case, I'm going to do a standing stitch and turn. So now I'm back to seeing these front posts from this side. They were back posts when I had it this way. They're front posts now. And what I need to do is reverse the direction of this sort of plaid look or basket weave look. I need the horizontal part on top of this vertical part in order to give it the basket weave look. So what I'm going to do here is around these front posts, I'm going to back post. So I'm going to insert my hook from the back, across the front and out the back, draw a loop through, and make some back posts. And that's going to tip the top of those stitches all the way. They were tipped way back, and now they're going to come all the way forward. But what that means is now this horizontal section is going to get worked over that, which means I now need a vertical section over my horizontal section. So around these back posts, I'm going to front post. And that can be a little bit tricky because those are facing that way. You want to come in from the front, around that post, and drag it up front where it doesn't really want to be. And then just keep front posting. You get 3 front posts. And then we go back around and we're going to do back posts again. But the general idea here is that you want to line the posts up for 2 rows and then reverse it for 2 rows. And you just work that back and forth and you end up with basket weave. It's relatively simple once you get the post stitches down. But you work 2 rows so that you make, a chunk of vertical and a chunk of horizontal. And then you have to work a vertical section over a horizontal section and a horizontal section over a vertical. Last back post. And an ending half double crochet. Val says I make it look so simple. It really isn't hard. Like I said, once you get the post stitches down, and that can be a little tricky to learn. It's just paying attention to where you're at. So I've got vertical sections here, and then I worked a horizontal section over it. On the next row, I want to make this section taller. So everywhere, when I turn this around, everywhere that has vertical, I want to make that taller. So this is going to get front posts. And this is a horizontal, so I want to make it taller. That needs back posts. Front post, back post, front post. And then on the next row, we need the stitches to flip the other direction. This is one of the situations where I don't really like a chart to help me. I'd rather have a written pattern that I'm following. And I'll show you why that is real quick. So this is a basket weave pattern. If I tip this up, and I don't know how well you can see that, but these are just hooks. I don't think I can make that combination of things happen. Yeah, I can try and turn it around to over here. So we're going to flip-flop cameras and zoom in just so there's a better angle here. But on the chart, what you have is just a lot of hooks. And I think it's too much to look at. Like, it's not helpful to me. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't know which one of these is a front post and which one of these is a back post. It probably makes some sense of which way you're pulling your loops, but normally I really enjoy a chart. I think this is pretty much just chaos right now. It really doesn't help me see the pattern or anything like that. So it's not the fault of this book. It's just that front post and back post charts just don't really work for me at all. Yeah, you can see the repeat portion highlighted in here. But basically all you're doing is front post and back post. This is a 4 wide basket weave that we're looking at the pattern for. I'm only doing a 3 wide basket weave. So this book has 2 and 4. And charts for 2 and 4, I'm doing a 3 because that's what I like. And it's relatively common to do a 3 wide basket weave, but anyway, so that's the basket weave. I will do one more row and that will finish the repeats. So it's basically a 4-row pattern. So we've ended here. We did 3 back posts and then the half double crochet. I'm going to turn the pattern, and I'm going to do my standing stitch. Again, you can do 2 chains. And so now I need to make this vertical section a little bit taller. And so these are popping towards me. And in order to keep that pattern going, I need to pop them towards me a little bit more. So that is front posts. Let me move back onto screen here. And then again, it's just 3 front posts. So there's 2, and there's the 3rd front post. Okay. And then I'm to a horizontal section. And so I want the stitches to pop backwards. You can see they're popping out this way, which is the back of my project. So I need back posts. And this is a reversible pattern, but it's not, what do I want to say? It's reversible in the sense that it looks like basket weave on both sides, but it's not the same pattern on both sides. So if I flip this over, I've got the horizontal section here and the vertical section here. And if I flip it over, the horizontal section is where the vertical section is on this side, and the vertical section is over here. So everywhere that you are, so if I'm making horizontal on this side, I'm making vertical section on the back side. So that might be a little bit easier to see the vertical sections. At least that's how I like to think about it. So this way, my vertical sections are on the side that faces me. So I'm going to do front posts. Three of those. And then on this section, my vertical section is on the back side, and so I need more back posts. So that might be another way to think about it, is extending the horizontal or determining in which side your verticals are on. But either way, you're going to do combinations of front posts and back posts. And then every 2 rows, you just alternate. So there's my my back post stitches, and now front posts again. 3 of those. And then your edge stitches are always regular stitches. They're not post stitches. So we'll put a half double crochet into that last stitch, or the top of a chain 2, depending on whether you chain 2 or did a standing stitch. It's supposed to be half double. Okay. So there is the basic basket weave stitch. So on your next row, you would turn, flip this over, and now we need it to be a vertical section again. So you would start with front posts so that you tip your vertical section towards you. And then this side would be back posts, front posts, back posts, front posts, and then your last stitch. And you just repeat this up as large as you want, as wide as you want. This is a pretty versatile stitch pattern. It's pretty common for household goods. So you can use it for, I've made washcloths out of this pattern. I've seen like trivets made out of this. You can make blankets out of this. It's got a lot of poof and squish to it, so it makes a nice blanket. It's probably pretty good for like a cowl. You could seam this at the end if you wanted. I suppose you could work it in the round, though you'd have to do a little bit of finagling so the pattern lined up. If you didn't just... I think, personally, I would make a long rectangle and stitch it up at the end, but you could figure out how to make it in the round, or there's probably a pattern of somebody who's made it in the round. I don't think I've seen much in the way of shawls, though I'm sure somebody's got one. But the shape really lends itself to rectangles and isn't super good at making a whole lot of other shapes. But I'm sure talented people have made it into all sorts of crazy things. Pillow covers is one that I've seen a lot with this basket weave as well. So just make a big square or big rectangle and then make 2 of them and seam it all the way around, and you get yourself basically a pillow sham. So there's some options here. Like I said, household decor seems to be the top option for this type of stitch, but that's the basket weave stitch. So now I'm going to show you the waffle stitch. And the waffle stitch, in this case, is exactly the same setup. So it is any multiple of 4 plus 3. Stephanie said she's seen ear warmers too. Yeah, basically anything you can make into a rectangle. This has a pretty good amount of stretch. So fingerless gloves, ear warmers probably are all good. Hats are probably less good just because it's going to be a little bit tricky, but not because it wouldn't be a good stitch, just because it's, again, trickier to make into a shape that isn't a rectangle. So a hat worked flat and then pulled tight at the top is not a bad idea, though. I've seen those. But I'm going to pull this back out and show you the waffle stitch. But I am not going to pull that very first row out because it is exactly the same. So what I've got here is 19 chains and then 17, 19 chains and then 17 double crochets. So 16 of them are actually double crochets, and that chain 3 at the end serves as your 17th double crochet. So however you want to get it, there's, like I said, it's chain any multiple of 4 plus 3. So in this case, my multiple of 4 was 16, and then I added 3 more. That's 19 chains. and then I worked the first double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook all the way to the end, for a total of 17 workable stitches here. And this pattern sets up similarly. So either you can chain 2 here, or you can do the standing stitch like I like to do. Standing stitches take a little bit of time to get used to, but they are really nice and make for really clean edges on crochet. So it's up to you, but that's my preferred method of starting a row. And then this pattern is primarily front posts. So I'm going to front post 3 here. So, and again, for these post stitches, if you're just joining, let me back that up and I'll show that in a little bit more detail. So these are front post stitches. So yarn over, I'm going to insert my hook from the front, go around the back side of that post and poke through the gap between the stitch that I'm working around and the next stitch. So there's the hole there and a hole there and the stitch in the middle. So you go in that hole and come back out this hole. And then I'm going to yarn over and draw that yarn through. I've got 3 loops on my hook, and I am going to yarn over and draw through 2, yarn over and draw through 2. And Val's asking me what yarn I'm using tonight. I am using Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday DK in the color Sea Glass. And a 5mm hook, which is a little bit larger than they recommend, but for these really dense stitches, I don't mind it. Plus, it's giving me a little bit larger stitch to show you guys. So I'm using a 5mm hook. They recommend a 4, but like I said, for these dense stitches, it works up just fine. So yarn over, insert my hook again around the back side of that post, which pushes the post forward or to the front for a front post double crochet. You can think about post stitches in a couple ways. You can think, okay, this pushes the post to the front, or you can think about it as you insert your hook from the front. Both are good reminders of which way the stitch goes. So there's my 3 front posts. And then I want to do a regular double crochet into the top of the stitch. And this is going to form the edge. So we've switched to the waffle stitch. This is going to form the edge of your waffle. All right. So 1 regular double crochet and then 3 more front posts. All front posts, no back posts on this one. At least for this row. I have to actually think about it on the next row. I think we do back posts on the next row. So 3 front posts. And then 1 regular double crochet. Okay, and 3 front posts. And 1 regular double crochet. And then a last section here, 3 front posts. And 1 regular double crochet. Worked into the top of that chain 3 from the very start row. I may have actually just messed this up. I think it'll be okay, but yeah, I did. Okay, so here's where I made my mistake, and I'm going to back up and pull this out. But I did front posts first, And what that means is if I turn this pattern over, my tipped over stitches are in the middle of a row, and that's gonna make it's actually fine because on the next repeat it would fix the pattern, but I end up with this one wonky row. So I wasn't totally off, but I started on the wrong post stitch. So I'm gonna back that up and fix this real quick. So the setup was correct. I still have my 17 uh double crochets, but what I actually needed to do was back post. So I need to insert my hook from the back around this post and tip these this direction. Is that going to make exactly the same pattern? Am I just losing my mind? No, I've got it right now. Okay. So we're going to do back posts. Again, 3 back posts. I might have just done exactly the same thing. I'm going to set this down for 1 second before I confuse myself any further, and double check my book. I thought... No, I was right the first time. I should have trusted myself. Okay, I apologize for that. Let me fix this really quick. I was right the first time. It is front posts all the way through this pattern. So that one wonky row is correct from the other side. So let me fix this real quick, and we'll move on with the next row of the pattern. So it is 3 front posts, 1 regular double crochet, and then 3 front posts, 1 regular double crochet over and over again. And again, this pattern can be any multiple of 4 plus 3. It just so happens that that's the same multiple on the basket weave pattern that I like. But again, the basket weave is more flexible. You can make the weave portion bigger. When you do that, sometimes you might want to do more rows of vertical columns and more rows of horizontal, just to even out the weave. With a 2, 3, or 4, it's pretty easy to keep it all the same. But if you start getting into 5 or 6 or 7, so on this, if you get these, really wide, then you probably want to make them much taller. But on a waffle stitch, which is what we're working now, I kind of like to keep it at this size. It is variable, but I just think this looks a lot neater here. Okay, so I've refixed my pattern to the way I showed you the first time. I'm going to put that last double crochet in there. Okay, now we're ready to turn. I am going to do my my standing stitch here. You could also do a chain 2. Tip my hook around here. Do my standing stitch. Now, so on this side we did 3 post stitches and 1 regular double crochet. On this side, we're going to do 3 regular crochets and 1 front post stitch. So here goes my 3 regular crochets into the top of the chain, just like you would normally work a regular double crochet. And then 1 post stitch around what used to be the regular crochet. So there's that guy. And then again, 3 regular double crochets. just into the tops of the stitches, just like you would normally work them. And then 1 front post. And so this one is just front posts. Like I said, I think back posts are just a little bit trickier than front posts. So if you want a slightly easier pattern, I think it's probably the waffle stitch instead of the basket weave. But I think they're both pretty easy to pick up once you've got the post stitches down. And then once you've got post stitches down, you can make all sorts of crazy patterns. You just need to keep track of where your front posts and your back posts go, and you can make all sorts of fun designs. So there's your 3 regular crochets, and then we're going or 3 regular double crochets, and we're going to end on a regular double crochet. Pop that in there. That stitch is just a little bit tight. These patterns don't end on post stitches, but they could if you wanted to raise the edge just a little bit. But generally these patterns do not. They end on flat stitches. That allows you to work a border in a lot easier. If you put post stitches on the edges, it's really hard sometimes to get the border to lay right. So we're going to turn the pattern again. I'm going to do a standing stitch. You could do 2 chains there. And again, we're back to front post stitches. And that is going to tip over the tops of the last row. And this is what's going to give it the waffle look. So there's my 3 front posts, 1 regular double crochet, make that vertical divider, and then again 3 front posts. And I have a hard time remembering which are front posts and which are back posts, but if you remember that either you insert your hook from the front or you tip the bar to the front, those are your front post crochets, double crochets. You can do things besides double crochets. They're just the most common. You can front post single crochet. You can front post triple crochet. Same with back post. The singles get a little bit tricky because you can't do post stitches in the next row really easily because single crochets don't really have much of a post. But you can single crochet. Like I could put a single crochet here without yarning over and still get the stitch to tip. But then the next row you can't really work on top of it. So they're for kind of specific patterns where you're going to work single crochets and then usually another tall stitch again with a post. And then again, the last stitch in this row is a double crochet, just a regular one. So you can see that's kind of puffing up there, but if we turn it over, you can see that waffle starting to build because these stitches are tipped over. So let me hold this the right way, but I just worked all of these front posts, and what that did was tipped all of these over. But the places where I worked the regular double crochets, they're not tipped over, and they're sort of building that vertical line up a little bit. So, and that's pretty much the basis to your waffle stitch. That's only a 2-row repeat. So it's 1 row of 3 front posts and 1 regular double crochet, and then 1 row of 3 regular double crochets and 1 front post. And so you just kind of work that in alternating rows. So this is a row of 3 regular double crochets, so into the tops of the stitches. And then 1 front post around that regular double crochet from the last row. The reason that we're not working back post double crochets here is because in the middle of this row, it would tip the stitches over and we'd be getting more of a basket weave look. So if I work a back post here instead of a regular double crochet, so this is not what you would normally do in this pattern. The look on the back side doesn't change substantially. So instead of working the regular double crochets, if I work back posts, see how I've got this ridge along here and it ruins the waffle part. So here is like that little pocket that reminds you of waffles. And this is kind of flat with like a ridge in the middle. The back didn't change a whole lot. It's still building these vertical rows, but the front doesn't look nearly as good. So this pattern is worked front posts and regular double crochets only. So if I put the regular double crochets in like you're supposed to, you can see that flat region that's going to be this little poof when I work the next row and it tips over these stitches. Those are regular, so this is a front post. So this one's nice and easy because it's just front posts and regular double crochets. But hopefully that makes some sense and you feel a little less intimidated by these patterns. Like I said, post stitches are a little bit tricky to get the hang of. Getting your hook placement just right, and not splitting those stitches can be just a little bit tricky. But once you've got it, you have tons and tons of options in the patterns that you can make. And just really cool stitch designs and all sorts of fun that can happen. So there is that waffle pattern starting to take effect. This again is a really good pattern for houseware. So it makes good washcloths because you get this like soft part on the back and kind of these scrubby ridges on the front side. It works well for pillow covers, trivets, things like that. But I wanted to show you real quick, once you get the hang of front and post stitches, just the variety of things that you can, some of the stitches that you can work up. So we'll turn the camera around and I'll just point some of the stitches out. So you've got the waffle pattern that I just showed you. But then over here, there's the rice stitch, some faux ribbing. So this is really common for hats and for fingerless gloves to make ribbing without doing the ribbing first. So if you do a top-down hat and then you want a ribbed cuff or a ribbed brim, you would do a fake ribbing. But then, so those are some more advanced. I was trying to find really quick this pattern. So these diagonal stripes are also done with just post stitches, and it's just placing them in like every row you move over where the post stitches start and where your regular stitches are at. And so you get these really cool reversible diagonals. Again, you can do basket weave. This is the 2 and the 4 basket weave. I showed you a 3 basket weave. And then, of course, you can blend in post stitches with other types of stitches. So this is a puff stitch with vertical ribs created by post stitches. So there's a lot of different options, and then it starts to get you into cables. So if you can post stitch, you can also start to learn to cable. They're a little bit different because you've got to make your post stitches go different places, but the general concept is basically the same. This is where I said you can front post triple crochet or like quadruple crochet. You need much taller post stitches in order to reach across many stitches, but it's basically the same concept. And so once you've got post stitches down, you're really kind of open up a lot of patterns that you couldn't do previously. So hopefully that helps. I think I'm all caught up on chat. And so I don't know if there's any additional questions. I don't know if you guys have other stitches you want to work through. This is the first time I think we've done a stitch tutorial completely live. So if not sure how the camera work and if you guys were able to keep up. It's a little bit with a live video, or it's a little bit difficult with a live video because if you're not working along, you probably want to pause the video and go back and pause and go back, which you'll be able to do once this video posts. But while I'm live, you can't really rewind and, pause and restart and stuff like that. It's a little bit tougher. So, yeah, I guess if you end up working something out of basket weave or waffle stitch, I'd love to see it. You can share it with me on Facebook or Instagram at Experiments in Crafting. So let me know how things go there. A few more questions. Stephanie asked if puff, bobble, and popcorn are the same thing or similar. I don't know. So people name things all different things, and there's no standard for it. I would say puff, bobble, and popcorn definitely use the same concept. It's putting a whole bunch of stitches all in a really tight space. So in most cases, you work a bunch of halves of double crochets. So you yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, draw through two, or yarn over, draw through two. And then you end up with two loops on your hook. And instead of yarning over and drawing through the last two, you do that process over and over and over again. So you yarn over, insert your hook, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through two. And now you've added another loop to the hook. And you keep doing that, and you get a whole bunch of stitches all on there. And then the very last step is you yarn over and draw through everything on your hook. And a puff, a bobble, and a popcorn are roughly the same thing. Different designers might call a puff stitch one of those where you only do 5, and a popcorn, well, you do that 9 times instead, or a bobble is 7 times. And then a different designer might say, well, a puff stitch is 7 times and a bobble is 5 times. And so I think my general answer is yes, they're relatively interchangeable. Popcorn to me means a bigger, poofier stitch, which usually means that you do that procedure of half of a double crochet over and over and over again more times. But realistically, I think those terms are used pretty interchangeably, and they roughly have the same procedure. It's usually just how many times you repeat it. So yes, I think generally they're interchangeable or at least very similar. Diane is saying, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And then I saw a crocheting picture, a red live icon, and had to pop in. Well, welcome and thank you for joining. Tonight's we're doing something a little bit different. So a lot of times we do unboxings or some project updates of things I'm working on, some questions and answers. Tonight I worked on a tutorial of the basket weave and the waffle stitch. So it's a little bit different than what we normally do, but if people are enjoying it, then I will do some more stitch tutorials. I think I have a handful of videos posted of pre-recorded stitch tutorials, and then a couple of pattern tutorials. They're more or less the same thing. Um, but this, if I remember correctly, is the first time we've done live stitch tutorials. We might have done a couple of tutorials where I did some like beading live, but
I think you've done some basic tutorials when people said they were having problems with a particular stitch.
okay. So yeah, I might have done some help or some troubleshooting with people on some stitch tutorials, but I think this is the first time that I intended, like I started the video out with the intent to do a uh stitch tutorial. So we'll see how it goes. Val says that it looked good. That's good feedback. Thank you for letting me know. We'll see how people do with the tutorial itself, and if you guys can make stuff from it, that would be uh a good test of how well it worked out. Um, Stephanie mentioned that I go live about every Thursday night. Yeah, so we were doing Tuesdays. We've moved to Thursdays, roughly 8 Central Time. And I do my best to post on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find me on those at Experiments in Crafting. Once again, if we're not going to stream. So I do work a full-time normal job, and sometimes things are just a little bit too hectic to, stream at night. But if I am canceling the stream, I try to post about it. So feel free to follow me on one of those, or you can hit the subscribe button and the little bell and turn on the notifications, and you'll hear about the streams in the future. She's also saying that she just started crocheting, really into amigurumi right now, and will definitely subscribe. Well, that's great. Thank you. I am in a little bit of an amigurumi phase myself. What's that? I've got my doll here. This is one of my recent projects, and my mermaid over here. So these are some of my recent amigurumi. There's my doll. Got kind of a lot of hair. I went a little bit nuts on the hair with this one. So this is what I've been into recently. And then my other doll is still eyeless and clothingless. So these are the dolls that I've been working on. The base of my pattern is from Carmen Rent, her Danielle pattern. And then in the case of the mermaid, I just kind of freehanded everything but the head and the arms. In the case of these guys, I followed the pattern a lot closer and did my own thing with the hair. This dress I freehanded, so there's a kind of a mix of following patterns and freehand here. But yeah, I've been really happy with my doll. So I was able to get a couple of doll stands from Amazon, and so it just like holds the dolls like this, and so I've had them around. But yeah, I do like my dolls. And I'm right there with you. I love dolls and I love teddy bears. I've got a lot of somehow I ended up collecting Burberry teddy bears. They came with like fragrance. At like if you bought Burberry perfume, you got a teddy bear at Christmas time, and I think I have all of them. And there are a couple of like UK exclusives. There were a couple of I think Harrods had like a one particular one, but I've got a whole bunch of them and they're all over. I think those are in my spare bedroom. So I really like those. They Burberry is famous for like their scarves and their raincoats, and so they have little Burberry scarves and little Burberry raincoats. Obviously not as high quality. Like they're not actually cashmere scarves. They're just little, probably acrylic scarf, but they're pretty adorable. So I like those. And then obviously my dolls here, and actually, if you're just getting into crocheting and you like dolls, at least one of the things I find most fun is working with doll clothes. So I've made a lot of Barbie doll clothes. I'm not a big Barbie person, but I do like making Barbie clothes. And then there was a set of dolls from the My Little Pony universe called Equestria Girls, and they were so petite that like even Barbie doll clothes didn't fit. And so I made a whole bunch of clothes for those. Their waists were like this big around, like probably smaller than a nickel in circumference. Um, like if you chopped him in half, I think it would be smaller than a nickel. It might have been like dime size even. So I made teeny tiny little skirts and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. Um, so yeah, I think the dolls are fun. Doll clothes are fun. I haven't made a teddy bear. I've got some really cute teddy bear patterns. I made a little fox. I've made a giraffe. I've made some giant elephants, but I haven't made a teddy bear. I should make a teddy bear. So, let's see. Val likes my dolls. And says great job. Thank you. Stephanie says she's also been into amigurumi lately and just made a panda lovey for a newborn. I made that fox and baby blanket for a newborn, and I think he's 3 months old, and I still haven't gotten to see him and take him as a gift. So I probably ought to just mail that because it's getting to winter, and that blanket will probably be nice to have. So I need to send those. Let's see. Let's see. Dan said, "Oh my, I crocheted Barbie clothes when I was younger and don't remember much." I didn't crochet when I was little. I wish I did because I was really into Barbies as a kid. So if I could have made their own clothes, that would have been nice. But I'm trying to think. We didn't really make much in the way of Barbie clothes. I made a lot of like Barbie furniture and houses out of cardboard tubes and old boxes and stuff, but I didn't make any clothes out of even like fabric scraps or anything like that. So, but I sort of wish I had crocheted at the time because I probably would have made a ton of Barbie clothes. Do I have any amigurumi tutorials? I do not, with one tiny exception, and that is recently I did a live stream where I put hair into this amigurumi here. So if you want to see if you do direct attached hair, I did that on stream, but I don't have any actual tutorials of working up amigurumi. The place that I would recommend is a channel called Planet June. Those are the tutorials that I learned off of, and that's the place that people recommend when you're starting out with amigurumi. I'm not much of a pattern designer. I can do freehand stuff and make it work for me, but I'm not great at writing down what I did or really explaining how I know roughly what I have to do to make it work, but I have a hard time converting that into telling somebody how to do it. For example, on this this mermaid, I knew like the crocodile stitch is relatively straightforward. You can find hundreds of tutorials on how to do this scale stitch or crocodile stitch or whatever you want to call it. But I didn't want it to go all the way around. I wanted it to be smooth on this side because I wanted the mermaid to be able to sit. But I had to get it to fit around this ball shape. And so what you'll see is I've got mostly double crochets along the bottom of the tail. But then when I got to here, I needed to do some double crochets, and then I did a lot of single crochet to try and shape it a little bit more, and then some more double crochet to kind of make up the height here. But I needed it to curve nicely, um, because this side was growing, and this side I needed to like round over, and that's how the tail sits kind of nicely like that, and um doesn't have issues, so that she can sit upright. If she was sitting on dragon scales, I was afraid that there would be too much bulk, and that she'd be way tippier. She's actually pretty tippy still. And that's even with the end of this weighted pretty heavily. So, just getting that to sit upright is a little bit of a challenge, but it's kind of a hard like procedure to explain. Like, okay, well, you've got to just stick in enough double crochets to make the bend, but like tighten it up with single crochets, and I don't know. I don't have a good way of explaining that in a written pattern. So I just kind of do my own thing and try and talk people through it if I can. Um Stephanie says there are cute teddy bears to be made with the velvet yarn. Yeah, there is a pattern with the parfait that I really like. I think it's a gray and blue teddy bear that's kind of plump. Kind of a fat little teddy bear with little legs and little arms. That I might try and make out of the parfait yarn. Diane said she's worked on a blanket and now a matching teddy bear for her daughter. That sounds cute. If you want to share those things with me, I'd like to see pictures. Again, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Experiments in Crafting. And you can just direct message me or whatnot. But I like to see what people are working on and what they've been doing. So, yeah, there is a Facebook group. So if you find me on Facebook at Experiments in Crafting, there will be a little thing that says like join the group or something, and you should be auto accepted. It's not heavily used, but I would like to see it used a little bit more. I think realistically what I have to do is get a little bit more involved in it, and it's been a crazy few months at work. So I just haven't put as much into it as I really ought to. But I do hope that if you feel like posting that you will, and hopefully myself and others can join in and comment and share with you and whatnot. So that is the intent behind that group, but like I said, it's a little underutilized right now. Val is asking if the mermaid is weighted. It is. And it is designed. So the original like inspiration was I saw these mermaids at Walmart. She sits better on a shelf than she does flat, but saw these mermaids at Walmart around Valentine's Day, and so this is what I based that design off of. Though my tail doesn't curve like that because I couldn't totally figure out how to make it do that, and run the crocodile stitch, which is what I wanted. But anyway, it's got a flat bottom and just sits pretty nicely on a shelf and not great on a table. But I've got this doll in 3 different colors. There's 2 more over there, kind of off screen. But I've got purple hair, teal hair, and pink hair mermaids. So that one's actually not weighted. This one is weighted with beans. Or, well, not... What do you actually call that? Just the weighted beads that you buy for dolls, or I want to call it polyfill, but that's the stuffing. But they're just plastic beads for weighting stuffed animals. You can also get them for weighting like weighted blankets and stuff. They're actually a little on the expensive side because so many people have been making weighted blankets, but you can usually get like a pound of them for a few bucks at Joann Fabric. But they're the same things in a Beanie Baby or in like a handmade doll or a handmade stuffed animal. They're just like fill. They'll be in usually they're in the doll making aisle at Joann Fabric or Hobby Lobby or wherever you get craft stuff like that. Excuse me. Let's see. Stephanie said she's got 2 balls of parfait layers waiting for something. Parfait layers would be fine, but you'll end up with a striped stuffed animal, whatever you make out of it. So parfait layers is chunks of Premier Parfait. So parfait is exactly the same yarn, but it's one single color. But parfait layers should work for you. You might do better to like disassemble it and use parts of it for different parts of the amigurumi, so that they match. So like you could do 2 legs out of 1 layer color and 2 arms out of 1 layer color and like the whole head out of the other layer color. And it would look patchwork, but at least kind of the same in a way, or like symmetrical, I guess. Let's see. Val says yours is so much cuter. I'm not sure in reference to
The mermaid.
oh, the mermaid. Yeah, I don't know. I like the way my mermaid turned out. I really wish that I had learned to do the invisible decrease. I've mentioned this a couple times. But when I did this mermaid, I don't know, you probably can't see on this view, but on the other view, she looks a little bit like she's got a little bit of acne going on, because I didn't do the invisible decrease right. And so you can see all these like little bumps. They don't look terrible from a distance, but I know they're there. And so if I had learned to do that properly, you wouldn't see those. If you look at this doll, which doesn't have a face yet, you don't see any of those little bumps and blips. So nice, smooth. You can see there's decreases, and so like there's like right here there's a flat face, and then like if you turn it, you can kind of see there's another flat face here, and so there's a point where you can see there's a split. But that's just because there's increases and decreases, but there's no actual like defects in the fabric. And that is because between the mermaid and the other doll, I learned to do invisible decreases properly. Diane loves my sweater, and Val wants to know if I made it. I did not. This is a purchased knit sweater. I think it's from Maurice's, and I think I bought it on clearance for really cheap. But it's a pretty nice sweater. I kind of like I wasn't a big fan of the cold shoulder clothing. So it's it looks like a tank top, and then it has a sleeve starting here. But I do like the sort of mesh shoulder looks okay, at least I think. So it also looks cool if I wear like a long sleeve shirt under it, and then you get like a solid color showing through. But mostly I was cold before I started streaming, and we stream out of the basement, and so it's even colder down here. And so I put a sweater on before we started. So let's see. Stephanie says, this is random. Can I talk about some of my favorite crochet things besides yarn and hooks, like essentials or maybe extra things for gifts? Let's see. So, as far as like accessories or essentials, I really like uh, needles that have a bent tip, and preferably colored needles that have a bent tip. Let me see if I've got one handy. I think the ones that I like the best are from a company called Haya Haya. There's one. I like the colored ones because I can see them coming through the stitches a little bit better than the regular stainless steel ones. But these painted needles that have this bent tip are one of my favorite pieces or essentials. So just that little bent tip kind of makes a bit of a difference. So if I'm going through here like I was going to sew in my stitches, you just get like, they just pick up a little bit nicer. So you get that little bit of a bent tip, and it stops it from splitting the next stitch quite as much. So as you're going through, it is pretty easy to split stitches pretty much always, but I think it just kind of helps guide it out there. And again, I feel like I can see it a lot more clearly against those stitches. Not that you can't see the metal, but this just really stands out color against color. So like I said, I'm pretty sure these are from a company called Haya Haya, which is Hiya. I get them at a local yarn store. One of my other favorite essentials, and I am sure I don't have any in here, because they're never where I need them to be, which are stitch markers. That's just full of sewing pins, like I thought. I don't have any down here, but my favorite stitch markers are from Knit Picks, and they are the little ones that look like safety pins. These ones come in like dark purple and light purple, and you get 50% of light purple and 50% of dark purple in each bag. They're a couple bucks, but the ones from Knit Picks are the good kind. So there is a bad kind from Susan Bates. Those ones are made of terrible plastic that crack. Maybe they improved them. Clover, I think, also makes some, though theirs are usually pricier than they need to be. I've seen sets from them for like $10, and you can get basically the same ones from Knit Picks for like $3 or $4. So I really like the Knit Picks, like safety pin looking stitch markers. I don't have a strong preference on scissors, but I do like the, I don't know if I have them down here either. In the sewing section at Hobby Lobby, they often have like a little end cap of like deal stuff, and in there there's these little bitty scissors that have like a cap on the top. Those have become some of my favorites. Let's see what else. As far as gifts, I really like on Amazon you can get an unpainted ceramic yarn bowl. It's like $20-ish. I have none of these things available. I have no idea. It almost has to be up in the spare room. Because if it's not down here, I don't know where it's at. Anyway, it comes as an unpainted ceramic bowl. You can just get acrylic paint and paint it. I did like a whole space look on the outside of my bowl. It's something like $22 or something like that, but it's a really nice big bowl. Maybe about yay big around, and holds the yarn really nicely. It's just nice to have somewhere for your yarn to belong. Mine, generally, if I put like 100-gram ball, it just kind of sits in the middle and hangs out. But then my whole crochet project fits around it pretty comfortably. And then I've got like a contained thing. I've even put the bowl in the bottom of a project bag so that it's got like some structure to it. Though I've stopped doing that because I've beat up a lot of bowls just like carrying them like that. I'll hit them and they are still ceramic. So it's not a great idea. But yeah, I guess as far as gifts as well, project bags are always welcome. I've bought project bags and I've made project bags. Oh, actually, we lucked out. I found my stitch markers in my project bag. So these are the little stitch markers that I like from Knit Picks. They come in like a little pouch like this. Um, and so you can see the light purple and the dark purple ones, but they're really bendy. But they hold their shape. So they're not so bendy that you can like deform them. And then you just pop them closed. These ones work for crochet because they're removable. Knit Picks also makes knitting ones, which are solid circles, which are not for crochet because you can't get them off your crochet project. So there's those guys. But project bags are good gifts for people. If you want to put it on a wish list, you can go to like Etsy or something like that. If you know somebody who sews, there's quite a few sewing patterns out there. This is a Japanese knot style bag, so it's got these mismatched handles, and what you do is you take the long handle and you put it through the short handle, and then it's closed up like this, and you can still work out of the top of the bag if you want, and you've got kind of like a handle to hold on to it. So if you're sitting around at a outdoor event, your yarn is up off the ground, but you know you can still work at it. Or you can open it up. The knot style bags don't work as a yarn bowl quite as well, but you can just open it up on the table like this and still have like a place to hold your yarn like that. These ones come from, I buy these off of Facebook from a designer called Celestial Strings. So this one, my Harry Potter one, a couple of the ones on the wall over there that you guys can't see. There's also a designer called It's Coming Up Rosie. It's about time to break out my my project bag from her because it's a Hocus Pocus one. And so it's getting close to Halloween. Well, not super close to Halloween, but it's in the range where it's acceptable to start carrying Halloween themed project bags. So I like buying project bags from people because they often get really interesting patterns, like limited edition runs. They pay a lot more for them. But like this particular fabric was not like, this is not a Joanne fabric. This is something from like an indie fabric house that was like a limited edition run, but they're just really nice fabrics, and so I don't mind paying for the occasional project bag. The bulk of my project bags I made myself from fabric from Joanne Fabric. And I've got tons of fabric and tons of project bags that I've made, but yeah, I also don't mind paying for them. One of these days I'm probably going to learn to make a Japanese knot bag, and things will be a little bit, I'll be able to make more of these and whatnot. But generally I buy drawstring bags. I like those as well. What else as far as crochet essentials? It's all that's coming to mind right now, but if I think of something else, I'll let you know. Let's see. Jessa asked, what yarn do I like for skin tones? For Caucasian skin tones, I really like a yarn from Simplicity, which is by Haiku, called Karen's Birthday Suit. And I think it's Karin. Birthday Suit. It is supposedly based on the skin tone of like one of their owners or lead designers. Um, and so that is the color that all of these amigurumi are. It looks very pink when it's just sitting by itself. At least I think it looks very pink just out on its own. But when it works up, it has a really nice tone. But I mean, you can see against my skin, which is very pink, it's a pretty good match. So, um, anyway, that's my current favorite. I have a really hard time finding uh skin tones that I like. I'm trying to remember. There's a new line of yarn. It's all acrylic, but it comes in like 8 or 9 shades of a variety of skin tones, from a very pale to very dark, and kind of all the I don't really want to say rainbow, but gradient, I guess, between. Um, I keep seeing it on Instagram. I think it's by the designer who made the book Amigurumi. Like it ends in the word me. Um, and so I think she's been touting it, though it could also be Crafty is Cool. Those are the two designers that I'm that make the most like people amigurumi. So there is some sort of acrylic yarn out there right now that is targeting making like I said, I think it's
I think you're mixing them.
am I mixing them?
Or you're splitting them.
Yeah.
Crafty is Cool are the ones who make amigurumi.
Oh, okay. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they have a bunch of skin tones.
Okay. So Crafty is Cool is the company that made amigurumi, and they do have the skin tone yarn. So I was remembering all of the same things. It was just all one entity, not multiple people. So I follow them on Instagram, and I think I've seen the ad a couple of times, and that's what we threw the link up there in the chat. I haven't used any of those. I just keep seeing them come up. Like I said, the one that I default to is a skin tone that matches my own pretty closely, and that is Karen's Birthday Suit by it's a Simplicity yarn from Haiku. Let's see. Diane says, "What's my name? My name is Maggie. So nice to meet you." Let's see. Stephanie said, "Very interesting. Thank you." That was in regard to the all the gift ideas and essentials. She also asked if I've ever used Knit Picks yarn. They have a lot on Amazon. The only Knit Picks yarn that I think I've used is their Cot Lin, which is a cotton linen blend. Worked up pretty nicely, and then I think my dog chewed it up. But I made a little poncho. It was supposed to be a it was supposed to be a bathing suit cover up. So I chose cotton and linen because it was natural fibers and it would soak up water a little bit and make a nice little bathing suit cover up. And it had a little narwhal hood. It was super cute. And like I said, I don't know what happened to it. It had to have either been the dog or a mouse. Central Illinois in the early late fall, early winter, we can get the occasional mouse in the house. They get kind of driven out of the fields. And so that has happened, but I think it was the dog. She doesn't normally chew things up, but this one particular thing. So anyway, somewhere around here is a poncho that has a hole in it, and I haven't sewn it back up or fixed it or anything, but I did use Knit Picks yarn for that. I don't think I've used much else from them. I've put a bunch of stuff in the cart before, and then I put way too much in the cart, and then I just changed my mind and stop. I really like to touch things if at all possible before I buy them, and Nitpicks is only online, and so every time I get all the way and I'm like, what if it's terrible? And then I stop. So it's probably all fine. I've heard good things about many of their yarns. I think the reviews are relatively reliable. I've seen a number of poor reviews on there, so I don't think they're like, cleaning up the reviews. Sometimes I feel like you only get to see like the 4 and 5 star reviews on some websites, so their reviews seem to be relatively reliable, and you can kind of find some things out about them. It does seem to be a favorite brand well, at least when I was using Reddit relatively heavily. It seemed pretty common, and so you might be able to see what other people on there think. But yeah, the cotton linen blend is the only one I think I've ever used from them. Um, and like I said, it worked out very nicely. So, um, all right. I think I'm all caught up on comments. Oh, though Val did say that this is a fascinating bag. I do like this style. Like I said, this is called a Japanese knot. I don't think it's that difficult to make. I just haven't tried it. But I think basically you just need 4 of this sort of uneven shape, and the outer 2 get sewn together, the inner 2 get sewn together, and then they get sewn against each other. Relatively straightforward. It doesn't have any pockets or anything, but it makes for a nice bag to carry. Doesn't have any straps or anything that you have to tighten, no zippers to get in the way, nothing like that. So that is one of my major requirements on a project bag. Is I own exactly one project bag with a zipper that I use regularly. It's a very nice zipper and it's very well done. But other than that, I will not use zippers on project bags because I will not risk my yarn getting caught in a zipper and getting shredded or um, anything like that, especially metal zippers. I wouldn't put a metal zipper on anything that I was going to use with yarn. To be perfectly honest, I spend too much on some of my yarns to risk them getting damaged in a zipper. So, yeah, I strongly prefer either the Japanese knot style or a drawstring style um, project bag, in order to sort of protect my projects and yarn. Um, but yeah, that's that. Well, I think I'm gonna probably wrap up for the evening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stitch tutorials. If you have additional stitches that you want to see done, let me know in the comment section or message me on Facebook or Instagram. Again, that's at Experiments in Crafting. So you can direct message me on there. You can leave a comment on the video once it posts here. If there's some other stitches that you want to see or some other techniques, and I'll do my best to accommodate that. I can't do like a giant project on here or anything like that. Though maybe we could do something across a couple of weeks. But I can see what I can do. And then if you have other questions, concerns, video ideas, whatever, message me on Facebook or Instagram or leave me a comment, and we'll see what we can do in future live streams. But I guess other than that, I'm going to wrap up for the evening. You guys have a great rest of your evening and a great weekend. And I will see you next week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. And I'm going to say goodnight for tonight. Good night. Bye. Thanks for watching.